We start this morning with the latest on the wildfires raging in LA County. As crews battle to contain the massive wildfires in Southern California, a new one has popped up, triggering more evacuations. It comes as the death toll has climbed to 11, and it's expected to go even higher. Good morning, I'm Lauren Scafidi. Firefighters were able to make a little bit of progress on that fire thanks to less winds and higher humidity, but the damage is still staggering. More than 12,000 structures are either damaged or destroyed in all the fires combined in Southern California. New evacuations were ordered as a fire broke out in Granada Hills and another fire broke out near Calabasas. A furious effort held back those flames, but with each new outbreak, already thin resources are being stretched even further. And there's one less firefighting plane in the air. A super scooper was struck by what the FBI is investigating as a civilian drone strike. The damage left a fist-size hole in its wing, you see it right here, grounding the vital aircraft designed to drop 1,500 gallons of water on a fire. At the same time, Governor Gavin Newsom called for an independent investigation into the loss of water pressure in fire hydrants. As outrage grows and questions remain about what impact LA Mayor Karen Bass's multi-million-dollar budget cut to the city's fire department had on this response.
So $17 million cut did not allow us to do what we needed to do. And where that impacted us specifically for Palisades was our ability to move into reserve apparatus.
So that apparatus could not be utilized in this fire?
We were limited with the number of resources that we could add and pre-deploy to this fire, yes.
The fires have now burned more than 56 square miles. That's larger than the city of San Francisco. Here's where things stand right now with the wildfires. The largest and possibly costliest fire in U.S. history, the Palisades fire, is 8% contained this morning. It's burned nearly 34 square miles. For perspective, that's just smaller than the size of Washington, D.C. The Eaton fire, burning near Pasadena, is 3% contained, and it's burned 22 square miles. Crews have the Kenneth fire 50% contained. It's burned more than 1,000 acres since it sparked up on Thursday. The Hearst fire is up to 70% contained this morning. And the Lydia fire is nearly fully contained at 98%. Crews will have more help fighting the flames from Colorado this weekend. A truck and crew from Boulder Fire is expected to arrive in LA today. Their crews could be there for up to 2 weeks. 5 engines and crew members from different departments will be heading up there to help over the next few days. Back here in Denver, Coloradans gathered at the Roxy on Broadway to raise money to support those victims of the California wildfires. The owner of the restaurant and concert venue has a second location in California. It is safe from those fires burning right now, but she told us she couldn't just watch what's happening in LA without doing something to help.
I think when it comes down to it, this is a part of respect. We respect what they're going through, and we want to show them that we've got their back.
So well said. There was no cover at the venue last night. They just asked people to give what they could. If you would like to help, we're working with the Red Cross to raise donations for survivors of those wildfires. You can scan this QR code right here on your screen or text CA Wildfires to 90999. That will direct your donation for wildfire relief in California. And as we continue to see all of these images, all of these videos, it just is tougher to see every time we check. Let's get a check of our weather with Weather Impact meteorologist Carly Cassidy. And Carly, this is something that you're tracking very closely as well.
Yes, and you mentioned a little bit earlier at the start that we had a little bit of those lighter winds. That's going to be the case again today and hopefully help a little bit as we get going. You can see not really much activity, but it's the wind that we really need to die down, and then hopefully, if we could, in the next couple of days, get a little bit of that precipitation, but looking dry there, unfortunately. We'll keep an eye to that. Back here at home, we also have a lot that we're keeping an eye on. Just about everything for today. Depends where you are, depends where you're going as far as what you are going to get weather-wise. So to the east, you can see that mixed bag precipitation. We got some rain, some sleet, some ice, some snow, and then to the west, there's that snow and also those gusty conditions. So on both sides here, really splitting I-25, that's where you're gonna see some sunshine and be like, it's not snowing. We don't have any ice out there. We do, just depends where it's at. And that's why we also do have that winter weather advisory in place to the west and to the east as we go throughout today into tonight. Those conditions will taper off, and tomorrow just some snow left over in the high country. But here you go. Here's for today that storm system. The wind you can feel a little bit in Denver too. We're talking those breezy conditions around 5 to 15, 25 miles per hour. That north wind, it's coming in and will bring in some colder temperatures. Headed out this morning, it's about where we should be for this time of the year. the teens, 20s, 30s, grab the extra warm layers, especially if you're headed out into some of those snowy conditions. By this afternoon, and really as we get going into midday, here's where we are going to top off at. That cold front's going to push through into early afternoon, and then those temperatures will continue to drop. So tomorrow, second half of the weekend, as we move things out, it is going to be colder by about 10 degrees. So we've had a bit of a chilly, wintry week. We keep that going for the weekend. Then as we go into next week, that's when we'll start to rebound. But we'll talk all about those details coming up in my full forecast.
Thank you so much, Carly. A sad day in Colorado college football. The man who changed Colorado athletics forever has died. Hall of Fame coach Bill McCartney died Friday at the age of 84. His legacy is felt through his faith, the thousands of players impacted by his guidance, and the most glorious period of Buffalo's football. Coach retired in 1994 after 13 seasons of guiding the Buffs to the golden era of program success. CU won the national title in 1990. They were a mainstay in the top 10 throughout the late 80s and 90s. Coach Mack left the game in his prime to lead Promise Keepers, a bold Christian initiative. This form of leadership sold out stadiums. Coach Mack is survived by his family, and he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2013. Right now, 3 people are facing charges accused of shooting a 16-year-old girl to death. Police say it happened at an apartment on East Jewel Avenue. According to court documents, 2 men went to the apartment after a woman says that she was told motorcycles and tools stolen from her could be found there. After the men got into the apartment, multiple shots were fired and Adriana Arrington was killed. Police arrested April Collingwood on suspicion of complicity to commit second-degree murder and other charges. They arrested David Gunnion and Cooper Miller on suspicion of second-degree murder. Today, a tavern in Denver is raising money to help victims of the Bourbon Street attack in New Orleans. Henry Batiste owns Nola Voodoo Tavern in North Denver. He's from New Orleans, and he still has family and friends who live there. A portion of anything bought at the tavern will be donated to the Greater New Orleans Foundation. They'll also host a silent auction, and they'll accept donations from customers. The fundraiser runs from 1 to 10 p.m. today. Making national headlines, the fate of video sharing platform TikTok was in the hands of the Supreme Court on Friday. The justices are asked to consider a law that could ban the social media platform in the U.S. Representatives for TikTok and content creators are arguing against the law that requires the China-based parent company ByteDance to sell the platform. They say it's a violation of free speech protections.
Am I right that the algorithm is the speech here?
Yes, Your Honor. It's basically how we predict what our customers want to see.
Both liberal and conservative members of the court are skeptical over the premise that an algorithm is speech.
How are those First Amendment rights really being implicated here?
The court has never held that a foreign government has free speech rights.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson points out that the law is not an outright ban, saying TikTok can continue to operate its own algorithm on its own terms, as long as it's not associated with the parent company ByteDance. But a former TikTok product manager who worked with the company for 6 years says selling TikTok and keeping it the way it is would be impossible. The Justice Department insists with its ties to China, TikTok, which has 170 million American users, poses a national security threat. TikTok's lawyer insists that there is no foreign threat. The deadline for TikTok to divest from its owner is January 19th. The Supreme Court could issue a preliminary block to that date, even ahead of a final ruling on the arguments made in D.C. on Friday, but word from the court could come at any time. President-elect Donald Trump has been sentenced in his hush money case in New York. Now a convicted felon, he becomes the first U.S. president to take office with a criminal conviction on his record. A judge in New York sentenced him to an unconditional discharge on Friday. That means Trump won't get prison time or any other punishment. 9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson explains why he believes this sentencing is still meaningful.
Whenever there is a conviction, a sentence of some sort has to be imposed. New York law permits the imposition of what's called an unconditional release, and it's based on the theory that the individual, having been convicted of a felony, has suffered enough. That's the rationale behind the judge's sentence in the case of New York versus Donald Trump.
Last May, a jury convicted Trump on 34 counts of falsifying business records to reimburse his former lawyer for hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels, who claimed she had an affair with him. This was before the 2016 election. Trump denies those claims.